I'm Kara Ray, founder of the Powerful and Uncensored Entrepreneurs. I'm a mother, stepmother to 3 beautiful children. I'm a wife and a proud entrepreneur. I'm a mindset coach specifically for the powerful and ambitious online female entrepreneurs who desire to create wealth and abundance in all areas of their life. The Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast is for the ambitious women and mothers who are ready to rise together and empower one another. Get plugged in each week for unfiltered and uncensored conversations between myself and industry leaders who are here to support you. They have unwavering points of views and empower women to believe in themselves. We will be discussing business, spirituality, sexuality, energy, strong points of views, manifestation, and what I like to call breaking the stigma topics, conversations that will no longer be silenced. This is a safe place to reclaim your power of being a woman. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast. So I made the decision that I wanted to bring forth more solo episodes, not only because I wanted to do this, but also because my listeners were also requesting to hear more solo episodes. So what my plan is going forward is that I will release a solo episode once a week, and then the following week I will also release an episode with another individual, so a special guest. So make sure you guys are staying tuned because there's going to be a lot more solo episodes being released. I'm going to be asking you what you guys are wanting to hear, what you're searching for, what you're needing in this season of your life. And so I'm extremely excited, nervous, but know that this conversation is another way for you to get to know me and how I overcame a few obstacles within my personal life, my marriage, my business, with friends, family, and how I really handled having tough conversations with a lot of individuals in my life. And so this episode is really all about diving deep into more of my personal life and for you to get to know me on such a deeper level and why I value communication, why I, don't necessarily hang out with the same individuals anymore, why I love people from afar, or how proximity has completely shifted and transformed my life. And so within this episode, I'm going to discuss with you, my marriage and my relationship with my husband, how quickly our relationship transpired, and some of the flack that we received, how we had a change in careers and education, some setbacks, and being a step parent. And there's going to be another episode that I'm going to release with a much deeper background of being a stepmother and what that really entails. So this episode is more about my relationship with my husband, Christopher Ray, and he's more than okay with this episode being released. I also asked him to do an episode with me, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that because I'm really excited for it. And he's now, he's been saying to me, hey babe, when are we going to do this episode together? So we're probably going to record that within the next couple days, and then we'll release that as well. Maybe I'll release him as my expert because he is the expert. He's my expert husband. Anyways, I was trying to figure out my words there, you guys. But there is a lot of judgment in this world in regards to how quickly relationships transpire or, how quickly we move through them. And I feel like the judgment is completely unnecessary. I firmly believe that everybody has the power to choose, has the power to make the choice. And I do also believe when that whole, was it love at first sight? Honestly, with my husband, it was. I still remember like clear as day, and so does he. And it still makes me giddy to this moment because he'll tell our relationship story and he'll tell how we first met and our first date and everything that happened, which I'll tell with you guys as well. But he says this and he has so much passion and love behind it and so much excitement because there's a few reactions from myself that empowered him or made him feel, really sexy, really in his masculine energy, really in his zone and his power. And so when I first met my husband, I was actually leaving to Mexico the next day. And I actually met my husband online on Tinder. And I had been in the dating pool. I hadn't been seeing anybody else at that time. And he was kind of like my last, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to go out of my comfort zone, because we'd been talking for a few weeks, and we've been talking about different struggles that we've had in life and having really deep and meaningful conversations. And this wasn't something that I was finding from anybody else. And so I really valued this. I really value when someone can have a conversation with me, not just simply about the weather or about just like the simplest things. When you can sit there and talk to me about communication, your values, the struggles that you have in life, how you overcame them, if you can have a deep and meaningful conversation with me, it completely ignites me to a whole other level. And so he was doing that. And in turn, that was really igniting my feminine energy. And so upon discussion with my husband at the time, I knew that he was going through a divorce. I knew that he was going through a separation, and that he had children from a previous marriage. And at the time I had no children, and I was just myself and my dog. I was a single woman who had a dog and who had a career, and really focused on that for a long time, which I believe is why I wasn't attracting in any men. I was just attracting this solo life. And so when I really attracted in my husband, I was nervous, and I almost canceled on our first date because I was so nervous and I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. And I really wanted to impress him because, well, he had impressed me just simply through conversation. And so I remember getting ready, and I remember talking to him and saying, okay, I'm leaving for Mexico tomorrow, and I have a few things that I haven't prepared. I didn't go packing, and well, excuse me, pardon me. I didn't finish packing, pardon me. And I just said, I need a few things. I need to get a new swimsuit. I need to get just some, toiletry items. And so I said, would you mind going to the dollar store and going to Walmart with me? And then we can go for dinner. It was almost like my process of, okay, if this man is going to go shopping with me, if he's willing to do these things and we can get to know each other and have fun in this space, I can't imagine how much fun we're going to have sitting down in an intimate space for dinner. And so he did. And let me tell you guys, this man, everything that he picked out for me to wear was perfect. Everything that I picked out didn't work. And so, of course, I ended up buying all the things that worked that he had picked out that he loved. And I had tried things on in front of him, which was a whole different kind of scenario for a date, but it was really empowering. And so then we proceeded and went to the dollar store and finished getting everything. And he said, I think we should go to this place for dinner, which was actually Birmingham's in the town that I lived in. And so we went there. And dinner was amazing. We had eaten way too much food, but got into such a beautiful conversation. And I am all about, I'm all about honesty. So I didn't want this date to end at all. I was mesmerized by him. Even when he walked up to the door, I was like, oh my God, this man is with me. Like, what? Like, I was just over the moon. And so I didn't want the date to end. And I felt this flirtatious feeling. I was just really in my zone. And so he asked, he asked, would you like to go to a movie? And my response was yes. And it was one of those, my words came out before I could actually, catch myself. And I made this very excited statement, and he's like, oh, okay. But I told him, pardon me, and this is where the honesty comes in, is that I said, I'm going to be real with you, and I've eaten too much food, and now my jeans are extremely uncomfortable, and I would really like to be comfortable at the movie with you so that we can just talk and not talk at the movie, sorry, so that we can just relax and be in our zone and not feel uncomfortable. I said, do you mind if we run to my home so I can change? He didn't mind at all, so did that, went to the movie. I had a few moments where I just said some of the most ridiculous things because I was so nervous. But by the end of the night, I knew that I had fallen for this man. And I had received some judgment from people being like, oh, well, you should probably go on a few more dates before you make your relationship official, and all these other ideas that people had. And I remember that night when he dropped me off at home, and we had listened to the CD, which we still have and we still play when we go on a road trip. that we got to my house and he was like shaking. I mean, he was so nervous. His breathing was really fast. He was shaking. He had hugged me, and I knew that he wanted to kiss me. And so I just did it. And I also said to him, like, I'm going on a trip tomorrow. I'm absolutely adoring this date. I don't want this night to end, but you also still have to drive home. I need to get a good night's rest. And, when I come back and when I have Wi-Fi, I will message you. We'll go on another date and we will, we'll keep talking to one another because I don't want this to end. And so fast forward to me in Mexico, and I couldn't wait to come home. Now, I was loving the fact that I was in Mexico and I was on vacation and all that jazz, but I was extremely excited to see him. And so by the time our trip was over and I got back, we went on another date, and that's when he asked me to basically go steady. And I said, of course. And it just felt right. And so at this point, I had not really shared that I was dating anyone with, my family members or anybody besides the people I went on vacation with. And so when I started opening up and sharing it with my family, it was a very different response. And so, I have the most incredible relationship now with my father, and I value it. I value it so much. And, me and him have talked about this beginning conversation about when I had called him and I told him, I'm really excited to tell you this, but I'm in a relationship with someone now. And this is his name. He has 2 beautiful children. And, we talked about this a little bit. And the second that I had said that he had 2 children and he was going through like a separation, it was like this red flag had gone off with my dad. Like, it was like, no, you can't do this. No. This is not safe for my daughter. No, she shouldn't be doing this. And he went into defensive mode and he said, I don't think you should be in that relationship and I think you should end it. And now at the time, I really thought my father was saying this because I caught him on a bad day. And then the more that I thought about it and the more that I allowed myself to give him grace, was that it was coming out of a space of love and of worry, because my father had also been through a divorce when I was 5 years old with my mother. And he had lived that life of, being a parent, but also being in another relationship and a marriage and having, my stepmother or my mother, let's just say my mom, for example, and my stepfather, they lived the life of learning how to communicate and step parenting and sharing your children, and how that was extremely difficult and it posed a lot of different things in life. And so he went through this very worried phase, and I was extremely disappointed in him at the time. And I remember, hanging up the phone and being very upset and telling him that this was like not an appropriate conversation and I wasn't going to continue it, to calling my stepmother and asking, did I catch him on a bad day? Did something happen today? Because, I'm really happy and I'm really excited and I really want to share this with him. And, she wasn't sure. And so after more conversation and after being able to sit down with my dad and figure out where this came from, there was a lot of, openness that I needed from him, but it was all about it. Like just this worry, he wanted to basically put me into like this cocoon and wrap me up and keep me safe and not have, different things happen in my life. And maybe it was also like a foreshadowing for some things that are happening in my life, because I believe the universe sends you signs. And I believe my dad was the first sign of saying, hey, this is a beautiful situation, but you need to be prepared. And are you prepared? Are you going to allow anybody else to tell you that this isn't for you? Are you going to stand your ground? And are you going to embrace your relationship and love your relationship and shout it from the rooftops kind of thing? It was almost like a declaration. It was like a test of saying, are you going to stay in this, or are you going to listen to other people's doubts? And I chose to stay in that relationship. And, now I'm married to this man. And so, Chris and I had been together for not a very long time, about 3 months, and we actually moved in together. So I had moved away from the city that he lived in, which is interesting. How that works is how him and I actually worked out at the same gym when I was working, where we live currently. And I didn't notice him. And it's interesting how that dynamic happens, how you can pass someone who ends up being the love of your life, because that literally happened on many occasions. And now I'm with this man for the rest of my life. And so, we moved in at 3 months, and it was not only a transition for both myself and Chris, but I had fallen like madly in love with this man. Not to the point where I had changed who I was, but I definitely valued spending my time with him. And I started hearing, from friends and family, like, you're spending a lot of time with him. Are you sure you don't need some space? And I wanted to spend my time with him. I wanted to get to know his children. I wanted to be a part of his life. And people, close friends of mine said, you guys are moving too quickly. And I said, that's your opinion, but I need to figure out what is going on in my life. And I value the fact that you want to keep me safe and you want to keep me held in this space, but like, I do need to grow on my own. And so we moved in together. And then at about 6 months of us being together, 3 months of living together, I became pregnant with our daughter. And I always wanted to grow a family. When I tell everybody that, no, that wasn't an accident, that was intentional. We wanted to have her. We wanted to start a family. We wanted to start this life. We wanted to create this beautiful life. And even though other people kept saying, like, you guys are moving way too fast, this is happening way too fast, it didn't matter, because what mattered was the two of us. And it mattered because the two of us were communicating about what we ultimately wanted in life and what we knew we wanted in life. And we shared that with one another. And yes, he had 2 children from a previous marriage that, we share off and on 50-50. And that's incredible and it's beautiful. But I also wanted to be able to carry children and bear children and bring children into the world myself. And he also wanted to have more children. And so, I was pregnant, and I still recall people in my life. There was a lot of unnecessary drama, and that is just something that I don't have time for in my life anymore. If people want to bring drama into my life, I'm just not here for it. I'll have a conversation, but I digress here. So as I started telling people who I really valued in my life, like very close friends, this is a very difficult part for me to talk about, was people had gone behind my back and had called me naive, stupid, insecure, vulnerable, that I was taken advantage of. And as I was growing my beautiful daughter, they actually had said that my pregnancy was disgusting. And this tore me. And I mean, this broke me in a way that I had never felt before, because, as a parent, you want to protect your children. As a friend, you want to protect your friends. As an aunt, you want to protect your nieces or nephews. Like whoever you are, there's somebody in your life that you choose to protect. And there was already people attacking a child who wasn't even born yet, a child who hadn't even taken her first breath outside. Like it was devastating to me that individuals could refer to her as disgusting, or the act of us wanting to create a family together repulsive. It really took me and threw me through a loop, and I tried having discussions with people, and eventually I realized that it wasn't worth my time anymore, and I became the bigger person that chose to forgive. Now, I chose to forgive, but that does not mean that I forget. But when I chose forgiveness, I chose to move forward, because as humans, we make mistakes. We say things that we don't intentionally always mean to say. And now I'm not saying that, not giving them excuses for what was said. But what I'm saying is that it's not worth my time to sit here and to worry about all the time. Like I said, I'm talking about it in here. It's not something that I've forgotten, but it's something that I've moved forward with, because we're human. We fuck up. We make mistakes. We say things we shouldn't have said. We do things we don't want to do. We do things on accident. And it's just, grace is one of the most powerful and beautiful things that you can offer someone. Because when you give somebody else grace and you give themselves, forgiveness, you're also giving yourself grace for not only yourself, but your mistakes and the things that you didn't know before. And you're giving yourself this permission going forward that, life will happen, things will happen, but you're being accountable. And so, that was a tough one. And I still remember my husband sitting there, not necessarily knowing how to help me, how to hold me, how to reassure me that everything was going to be okay. I just remember him saying, if there's individuals like this in your life that don't value you or respect your decisions, they're not meant to be in your life. And I've never forgotten that to this day. He is an excellent judge of character, that if someone doesn't, respect his boundaries, his values, he simply does not have the time of day for that person, because ultimately he will respect their boundaries and values, but not if it's going to dim his own light, not if it's going to take away from him. And so he always just said, I love you and I encourage you to just really think about this, and you make whatever decision feels best for you, and I'm here to support you. But always know that the people who are meant to be in your life are going to love you and encourage you through every step of the way. And when they're worried about something, they'll come and talk to you about it, not behind your back, which is very true. And so we had our daughter, and, throughout everything, you guys, being a step parent and parenting both my stepchildren and also learning how to co-parent with his ex-wife, there's a lot of things that we had to transition through, and a lot of things that have happened that I will share in a different episode, because I feel like it's a very important piece to my life and to how everything has transpired and transformed. Because there was a lot of stress at the beginning, and now it's become a very beautiful, delicate dance where there's these ebbs and these flows and this constant need of communication. But it took time to get there, and there's a huge lesson to learn there, that not everything happens at the snap of our fingers. Sometimes it takes consistent work and consistent action and really intentional action behind it to create the outcome that you ultimately desire. And so, for example, in my relationship, I continued loving this man and loving ourselves and loving our family and growing our family and doing what we ultimately wanted. And that's what we ended up creating. Then, not after, during that time. So I was about, 3 months pregnant. Yeah, no, when I was about 3, I believe it was 3 months pregnant. My husband and I, we also got engaged. We got engaged on Boxing Day. And my family was all there, which was incredible, which was beautiful. And he had asked my father's permission. My father said yes. And so now we're going to kind of go back to this conversation with my dad. My dad ended up realizing that this man does love his daughter with every ounce of his being, that he stands up for her, that he nurtures her, that he encourages her, that he really holds space for her to grow and to be the woman that she ultimately wants to be. And my dad said yes right away. There was no question. He knew that this man, and he saw the amount of love that I had for this man, and this wasn't just, a fling. This was real. This was love. And so we ended up getting some judgment from more people about how quickly we were engaged, and oh, are you guys going to wait a few years? Because maybe you should wait a few years and make sure that this is the right thing for you to do. And, you're already having a daughter, so maybe you should wait and transition and see how everything goes. And I don't know, this might be a little too much for you. And, people love to give opinions about your life, but they don't like hearing about theirs. So, if I give an opinion about something, or I open up that space to do so, I always ask the individual if they want to hear, my thought behind it, if they're open to hearing a different perspective. I don't just shove it down their throat, because sometimes people don't want to. They just want to talk. They just want you to listen. And that's important that you're aware of that. But getting back to everything, my relationship with my husband moved quickly. It moved quickly. It moved smoothly. It moved with a whole bunch of bumps in the road. Then it moved smoothly again. We had to learn how to not only at first live alone, but live together, how to co-parent, how to parent together, how to become new parents together, how to continuously build our life and allow the judgment to flow off our back, whether it was from our parents, whether it was from a friend, a family member, someone we didn't know. What ultimately mattered was how we felt about each other, and that's everything we went back to. So when something would happen, we would communicate with each other, and we would open up and we would share how we felt about something. But ultimately, we didn't allow the limiting beliefs or the judgment of other people to derail us from ultimately what we desired, and that was being together and loving one another and creating a family and creating our life. You know, our relationship hasn't been roses and daisies and butterflies the entire time. There have been arguments, there have been tears shed, there have been confusion, and the crying in the shower and not knowing what to do. But there's also been an incredible amount of grace and respect and love and passion and light and fuel and all these different things that have come together that have built our relationship in this solid foundation. We have, even currently in our relationship right now, my husband and I are moving through a different space, a different, season of our lives where we weren't communicating properly with one another. We were butting heads a lot. We were overwhelming one another. And so we had to come back together and really talk with one another, because not only, my husband and I have been together for over 3 years now, but we also have a son on the way. I am just over 6 months pregnant, and we are also preparing to welcome another life into this world. And that's beautiful, amazing, terrifying, all the different emotions all wrapped up into one, because, when I had our daughter, I wasn't an entrepreneur yet. I hadn't built my business. Pardon me. I was on maternity leave. And so now having my own business and not being on maternity leave and being able to create my own schedule, but not relying on someone else to pay me, I guess, every 2 weeks, I'm creating this for myself. And so there's a whole different perspective of providing for my family within this, and grace that I have to learn to give myself. I have clients that I've also been very open with and talk to them about, when little one comes, we'll discuss everything, and we will make sure that everything flows, but I will keep you guys in the loop. There's going to be a transition for not only myself, but the people in my life, but I'm giving myself grace, which is also giving my clients grace, to really step into owning the season that they're in or the situations that are happening, and processing the emotions and moving through them and having open and vulnerable conversations so that you're not overwhelming yourself. And really the whole point of me sharing the fact that there has been judgment in my life is that I'm not the only one. I'm not going to be the only one who's going to be sitting on this platform on a podcast telling you that they have received judgment, because I received a lot of judgment in how quickly my relationship went. And that affected me emotionally and mentally and physically at some points. And I felt a ton of emotions. I had felt anger, frustration. I had felt disempowerment. I felt betrayed. I felt lonely. But through those emotions, what that built empowerment for myself, empowerment in my voice. I was able to reclaim the woman that I always wanted to be. I filtered out the people in my life that were not meant to be there. There's seasons of, some people only last seasons in your life, and that's okay. I've learned to love people from afar. I've learned to not only give others grace, but give myself grace. I've learned to become a badass mom, a boss, a wife, a stepmother. I've learned how to communicate on a whole different level. I've learned what my values are, what my boundaries need to be, and what boundaries I need to have in place. I have learned so much about myself and about my husband and about the life that we ultimately want to live through the judgment of others. And ultimately, I didn't allow someone else's limiting belief or someone else's judgment to stop me from doing what I ultimately wanted to do. And the biggest message that I have for whoever is listening to this podcast is that no matter what season you are in your life, no matter where you are in your life, if someone is judging you for what you're choosing to do, just sit for a moment and think, do you want to listen to that judgment? Do you want to listen to their limiting belief? Or do you want to move forward with your belief and what you believe to be true in your life and what you know in your heart is yours and you can achieve? Pardon me, I have a tickle in my throat here. I'm just going to take a sip of water, guys. One sec. So, what do you ultimately want to believe? Do you want to believe somebody else's beliefs, or do you want to believe your own? Do you want to take action, or do you want to just pretend and wait for things to fall into your lap? Do you want to be intentional? Do you want to give yourself grace and give yourself permission for what you didn't know before? Or do you want to be basically sitting in a pity party? Because I don't think you do. Personally, to really build the life that you ultimately want, there's going to be judgment. There's going to be people who cast jealousy, who, like I said, cast judgment, who don't necessarily understand why you're doing what you're doing, who pretend that it doesn't exist, and that happens. But ultimately, if it's what you desire, because you are the person, there's a soul inside of you, you are living a life. You virtually see your life, and you feel these emotions, and you get to choose every single day what you want, what you're going to allow, what you're going to move forward with. And remember that every obstacle, like my one coach used to say, new level, new devil. Every time you up level, there could potentially be somebody who tries to tear you down. And it's not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of them not willing to go that next level or go that next step to do what you're doing. And people don't always want to see you grow. People want to see you stay where they are because that's where they are. So make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who love you, encourage you, and really actually believe in you. There are those people out there. I have found those people in my life, and I value the hell out of them. And so I hope that with this episode, you got to know me a little bit more and how quickly my relationship moved with my husband, but that there was judgment on all fronts. There was judgment from people I didn't know. There was judgment from family members, very close family members. There was judgment from very close friends at the time. There was judgment from, even myself. There was personal judgment. There was so much that had happened and transpired in the past 3 years. But really in that first 9 months to 1 year, that it was overwhelming at one point. But I continued to move through, and I made a choice that this was what I ultimately desired in my life, and that's what I moved forward with. And so I encourage you that if there's something that you ultimately desire that is weighing on your heart, that you take that intentional action, that you move forward with that, and you work at it every single day. And that if somebody has a limiting belief, you have the power to not listen to that. You have the power to rewrite your own limiting beliefs. So if something's coming up for you and you're not believing in yourself, journal that out and figure out why. Why are you not believing in yourself? And really rewrite that story and really anchor in that belief. Because everything that you ultimately want is literally there for you. If it is placed in your heart, the universe doesn't put something in your heart that is not made for you. You don't dream of this beautiful, abundant life because it's not made for you. Abundance is your damn birthright. And that's literally something one of my coaches used to say too, is abundance is your fucking birthright. And it really is. And abundance gets to look different to every single person. Wealth is different to every single person. You get to ultimately decide what that looks like for you. And so make the damn decision and empower yourself to really build the life that you want. You do this. You do this. You take action, the universe follows. You take action, the universe follows. Every damn time. You take, we get so wrapped up in this idea of time, or this idea of oh, it's moving too fast or it's moving too slow. Just focus on what you ultimately want in life. It's your life. Nobody else gets to decide what that looks like for you. Only you. Only you get to decide that. And so I am grateful that I continued with my relationship with my husband despite everything that has happened in our relationship or the judgment that we have received. I have learned to love him in multiple different ways. And it's very true that you learn to love in a different way. with a larger capacity. I'm proud of myself for creating a business that I love, for being able to step into the coaching industry and really guide and link arms with my clients and move them through these seasons of their life. Because I've worked with individuals where this has happened to them, where they've received judgment or they need help and guidance walking through a tough conversation, and I'm here to help you do so. And so I appreciate every single one of you that is listening to this episode and is listening to me talk. And I know that I went on a few rants here, but all of this is really said from the heart. I literally have like 4 points written on my computer, and I riffed off of all of those because this is what was supposed to come through today. This is the message that was supposed to come through. My conversation about how I met my husband, how, how quickly we moved together, having our daughter, the judgment we received, and how I moved forward with that. And even my husband, and how gracefully he moved through all of that. So just know that you do have the power, and you can gracefully move through anything that you are, that feels like is disempowering you at this moment. You have the power to rewrite your own story. You have the power to move forward. You have the power to create the life that you ultimately desire. It is literally right there. It's there. You just have to stop worrying always about the how and the time. So thank you all for listening so much. I am so excited to be bringing these solo episodes back to you because this is what you're requesting. And so, you guys, I have a request from you. If you want to email me, so I will put the email in my show notes, which is kararaycoaching@gmail.com, what you want to hear on the episodes, whether that's, how to move through tough conversations, a situation that has happened in your life or my life, and you want perspective on it, ask. I would love to riff on this. I would love to talk about this. I would love to get your feedback about what you ultimately want. And I also want you guys to know that currently, if you're listening to this and you're struggling with, moving forward in your business, if you feel like you're stuck in lack and scarcity and you really want to move into that abundance and that wealth and that thriving, and you are just feeling like things aren't clicking, what is going on? I'm currently running empowerment strategy sessions, and now I only have a few of these because this month is my birthday month. My birthday is actually next week. And I have a select few more spots that are free that I'm doing these strategy sessions. They're 60 minutes long. And throughout these sessions, you and I dive deep into what is holding you back from, moving forward in your business, and what strategy you need to put in place so that you can get over these limiting beliefs or these doubts and fears that continue to arise in your daily life. And I work with you and we talk together. And so I only have a few more of these spaces. So make sure that you send me an email, you friend me on Facebook. There's also, if you friend me on Facebook, the link to fill out the application, because it is application based, is on there, but I will also have that in the show notes. So make sure that if you want to snag that spot, that you snag those, because they are going really quick, which I'm so happy about. And I cannot wait to continue doing these episodes with you. So make sure to tune into, like I said, to tune into the following episodes, to apply for an empowerment strategy session, to also friend me on Facebook, Kara Ray. Instagram, it's kara.ray. Podcast you're listening to right now, I have a YouTube channel as well. That's Kara Ray. I would love to connect further with you. And on that note, you guys, thank you so much for listening. And I will see you guys all in the next episode. Bye, guys.